Picture this. You're at a party. The room explodes. People are hugging, screaming, maybe even crying tears of joy. Why? Because a man you have never met, in a city you have never visited, moved a leather ball 3 inches to the right, and you feel absolutely nothing. For a long time, society has treated this lack of reaction like a social defect. You're the buzzkill. You're boring. Or worse, people assume you just don't get the rules. But neuroscience suggests something much more profound is happening. You aren't missing the fun gene. You have a fundamentally different operating system for how you process reward, identity, and reality. We are going to look at why 60% of the population is addicted to the simulation of war, and why your brain refuses to play along. To understand why you don't care, we have to look at why they do. Human beings are terrified of being alone. For thousands of years, if you weren't part of a tribe, you were dead. Sports are essentially a hack for this evolutionary anxiety. They are safe wars. When a fan watches their team, their brain is flooded with oxytocin, the bonding chemical. It is a biological trick that convinces them that a millionaire athlete is literally their brother in battle. But your brain, it has a different setting. Psychologists call this lower tribal instinct. While the fan's identity is fluid, merging with the group to feel safe, your identity is static and individualistic. You don't need to wear a matching jersey to know who you are. You don't need to outsource your sense of belonging to a franchise. In fact, studies show that people who ignore sports possess a rare psychological trait, immunity to us versus them thinking. You don't automatically hate the enemy, because your brain doesn't recognize them as an enemy. You just see people in different colored shirts. Here is where it gets chemical. Why is sports fandom so intense? It's the uncertainty principle. You cannot predict the outcome. For a sports fan, that unpredictability triggers a massive dopamine spike, identical to what happens in the brain of a gambling addict at a slot machine. It is intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive cycle known to behavioral psychology. But if you are watching this, your brain likely rejects vicarious competition. Research from the University of Chicago suggests this is genetic. You might lack the specific dopamine receptors that make watching other people compete feel rewarding. Instead of getting a high from uncertainty, you likely get your high from agency. The sports fan enjoys the roller coaster because they aren't driving. You find the roller coaster boring because you can't drive. You crave direct engagement, not passive observation. You don't want to watch the game, you want to play it, or build it, or ignore it to create something real. There is a psychological phenomenon called burgeoning, basking in reflected glory. Listen to how fans talk. We won. But when the team loses, they lost. It's a psychological safety hatch. Non-sports fans don't do this. You have what psychologists call a consistent self-concept. Think of it like an investment portfolio. A sports fan invests their emotional happiness in a volatile market they can't control. If the team tanks, their self-esteem crashes. You keep your assets liquid. Your self-worth is tied to things you can influence, your relationships, your skills, your creative projects. You aren't emotionally hedging your bets on strangers. So if you aren't screaming at the television, where does all that energy go? It's not that you lack empathy or passion. It's about empathy allocation. A 2021 study found that people who ignore sports score significantly higher in openness to experience and appreciation for art and beauty. While the fan finds meaning in the narrative of the season, the comeback, the rivalry, the drama, you find that narrative artificial. You look at the game and ask, why should I care about a conflict that has no stakes in the real world? This is the crucial difference. Parasocial versus reciprocal. Fans build one-sided relationships with stars who will never know their names. You prefer reciprocal relationships, where your input actually changes the outcome. Society needs the cheerleaders. It needs the tribal bond that holds communities together. But it also needs you. We need the people who aren't swept away by the collective hysteria. We need the people who, while everyone else is distracted by the spectacle, are quietly working on their own lives. You report feeling more present in your own reality because you aren't living vicariously through someone else's. So the next time everyone is losing their mind over the big game, don't feel awkward. You aren't broken. You're just immune to the simulation. You aren't a spectator. You're the player in the only game that actually matters, your own life.